housing bill is a big no for me. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Tobiko Fearles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am shocked. I am shocked, Mr. Speaker, because of the members from the minority side who are opposing this bill. Mr. Speaker, it is on record that both Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, when we were all campaigning, each side had the housing program as part of their agenda should they take government. Mr. Speaker, is it becoming a problem today because it is their competitors who got to get into government and have gotten the first chance to implement the housing program for Kenyans? Mr. Speaker, I'm also shocked because, Mr. Speaker, a number of people I have heard from the minority side who are against this bill have been with us in the committee, Mr. Speaker, because I want to go on record that I'm the vice chairperson of the Committee on Housing, Roads and Transport, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we went through memorandums by the public, by many groups, including the Bankers Association, including the Juakali people, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, including the Matatu people, Mr. Speaker. We have listened to them, those who have appeared before the committee and those who have sent memorandums, Mr. Speaker. And so for any person who would want to say that there was no public participation, I would welcome them.
Senator Sifuna, what's your point of intervention? Give him the mic, Mr. Clark. Proceed, Senator Sifuna.
Mr. Speaker, I'm rising pursuant to Standing Order 105 on responsibility for statements of fact. There is a lie that has been repeated on this floor repeatedly that, in fact, the Kenya Kwanza manifesto and the Azimio manifesto had the very same proposals on housing. Mr. Speaker, we want to put an end to this lie by asking the Honorable Senator Tobiko to substantiate, because I, as a member of the Azimio coalition, do not recall us proposing to tax Kenyans to the bone to build houses that they do not need. So I would want her to table those two manifestos, point out to this house where it says we are going to tax Kenyans in order for them to have these affordable houses. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed, Senator Tobiko, and where appropriate, respond to the point of order in terms of
Mr. Speaker, I was very clear. I said we all had in our manifestos issues to do with housing programs. I have not talked about taxing Kenyans, but we all had plans to improve the living standards of Kenyans, which include the housing, improving their living standards, Mr. Speaker, by giving them, livable environments, Mr. Speaker, housing being part of that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Article 43(1) of the Constitution talks about the highest standards of health for Kenyans, accessible and adequate housing, Mr. Speaker. And so we are not going out of the Constitution by passing this law so that we have Kenyans getting adequate and affordable housing, Mr. Speaker, which we should also have reasonable standards of sanitation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when we were going through this, in fact, a number of the groups that appeared before the committee are Nairobians, and I'm shocked because Senator Sifuna is a member of that committee. And he was there when some of these groups appeared, Mr. Speaker. And if there are people who need housing, Mr. Speaker, it is people in the slums. In Nairobi, as it is in Kajiado today, Geshagi and Majengo and other areas of our towns, Mr. Speaker, I thought this is something we all aspired to do for Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, what is paining majority of the people here is that it is those of us who have salaries, it is those of us with pay slips who are going to bear the burden for the sake of the majority of Kenyans who do not have. Mr. Speaker, I have agreed to be taxed I have agreed to contribute in order for my...
Senator Tobiko, your time is up. Senator Keroche Tabitha.